Welcome back to Afternoon Express. Now, people from all walks of life and every age often talk about feeling anxious or stressed at various times in their lives. But what exactly is anxiety? It's more than just a fleeting feeling of worry. We've invited Dr. Darren Green to help us understand and to debunk the myths around it. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you. Good
Lovely to have you on the show.
Thanks very much.
So, what is anxiety according to a medical perspective?
It is a response that the body has, but that response can be viewed from different angles.
Okay.
So a physiological response, which is what this meat box does, what happens to the body itself, the heartbeat, the skin, the eyes, etc. And then the psychological response, what's happening up here in your thought processes and your cognitions around a response to something either in your internal environment.
Yeah.
So something that's happened inside the body, like a symptom. Oh, I've got chest pain. What can it be? And then the thoughts start running.
Yes.
Or I've got a cramp. What could it be? And then the thoughts start running. Or an external stimulus outside, like a noise at the window, for example. What could that be? And then you start a series of what-if questions and a series of things around that. But it's so magnificent in the sense that all it's geared to do is to ensure survival. We have an anxiety response.
So it's not necessarily bad.
It's not necessarily bad. So anxiety and stress are really, really good because they prime us to stand the best possible chance for survival in a situation where we do feel threatened and do face challenge in life.
Yeah.
The problem comes in, obviously, is when that response is unwarranted or irrational and it runs ahead of you, leading to a deterioration, either of your cognitions or your thoughts psychologically or physiologically in your body. You don't know how to respond to the early warning signs that you're seeing and you let it progress to a place where it renders you absolutely paralyzed, where you have the 3 Fs, the fight, the flight, or the freeze.
Yes, yes, interesting. Does that then lead to the panic attack?
Yeah, so a panic attack is where you've already spiraled and haven't managed to control the thought process around whatever that internal or external stimulus was, and it runs ahead. And then the physiological response in the body has a few key features. You'll find the biggest one is hyperventilation, where you start breathing shallower.
From the chest.
And faster.
Yeah.
And what happens, interesting, chemically, what happens in the blood is you blow off too much carbon dioxide, and the carbon dioxide levels drop, and that actually affects like the metabolic profile of your blood and the acid pH level, and then you get dizzy and you think, here comes impending doom. The world starts spinning, you start tingling in your fingers and in your legs, and you might even develop spasms from hyperventilation as part of the panic attack.
Doctor, so I know that you're interested in neuroscience as well. I'd like to ask you, what happens first? Is it the psychological or the physiological? Do we feel anxiety in our bodies first, or does it come from our mind first?
Great question. So what happens is the sensory input, let's say there's a structure in your brain called the amygdala.
Yes.
It's like an almond, a nut. And the amygdala is involved with ascribing value to any situation.
Okay.
So you might be at a dinner party and someone walks into the room and your amygdala starts resonating, ooh, stay away, someone's going to threaten my existence here. Or you think, ooh, very nice, I'd like to move towards that person.
Okay.
That hunch that you have, that initial value tagging of a situation, is the trust, the feeling of belonging, security, etc., is what protects you. So often it starts off with the sensation and your thought process, that filter of the initial stimulus.
Okay.
So the cognitions are extremely important, and that's why the mainstay, when we get to treatment of anxiety disorders, where it becomes really bad, involves us not only popping pills and giving people medication to help them with anxiety, but to rather empower them with tools and get the brain and your control, a handbrake of the cognitions that are bad for you, to help control them and steer them in a better direction for a better outcome.
But that awareness is so paramount. How does one get there?
Yes, so I think we often become anxious because we're genetically predisposed with mood disorders like depression and anxiety, or we've mimicked behavior that we've seen. Someone with a fear of cockroaches and rats and mice, for example, imparts that fear of cockroaches to their children. I was one of them. And then you can imagine what happens then is with that, you need then to realize that, is it a rational fear or an anxiety that you have that's appropriate for the challenge or the trigger or not. So you need to be able to discern, ask yourself certain questions when you do realize, oh, my heart's starting to beat faster, I'm starting to be nervous, I'm sweating, my palms are sweating, what do I do? Then you ask the question, okay, if my suspicion or thought does happen, what's the worst that could happen? And then you keep asking, and then? And then? And then you realize after that you might actually survive. You're not necessarily going to die, even with your worst skewed interpretation of the situation.
Yes.
So recognizing the symptoms very first, and then surrounding yourself with people that also don't strengthen that incorrect belief system of irrational fear and anxiety. If you mix with people and spend time with people that feed that negative intrusive thought and irrational fear of social situations, physical things, driving in traffic, etc., eventually you'll take on those opinions and you'll internalize them. So you need to surround yourself with dialogue that is uplifting, constructive, and that doesn't add fuel to fire.
Thank you, Doctor, for all those incredible insights on a vital and important topic.